What is your name?
My name is Diba.
I'm Jaime.
I am Yuya.
I feel like I've experienced rave culture in so many different spaces now. From like that first encounter when I was in Vietnam to like COVID raves in Norway to forest raves, and just every single one feels so different. It's just created by the people who are where you are and the people at the rave.
You go in like for the music.
There's an equation in music that I don't understand because it's not logical, and I think that's why I don't understand and I don't want to understand it. So we have a like thinking self and we have a feeling self, and for me the thinking self, it's sort of like my analytical reflective mind. Like once you've let go, you're a lot more open to like taking in good energies from other people and smile and love and empathy.
It wasn't just about the music, it was also about the space and the feeling of like entering the dance floor. Like it was this dimly lit tiny room, and you went in there and everyone was sweating and like you could barely breathe, but everyone was just dancing, and it was like everyone was in there to dance. It was like it was the only thing on people's minds.
With clubbing, like entering a club, if I'm fully sober, it's like, okay, I really need to enjoy the music and like know what I'm getting myself into in order to feel confident in myself and to enjoy the whole experience of dancing and everything. But that night I went in and there was like little to no alcohol in my system, yet something about the environment made me feel so confident in my own body and expressing myself through that way. So like as soon as we entered the door, I was like, ooh, okay, my body just like started to do its own thing.
I was scared. Like the idea I had of a rave was so different from the people that I was sitting in that car with driving there. Like they all had like, were wearing like pink fluff feathers, and it was just very like fun and colorful, and I was expecting a rave to be such a like scary and crammed and scary place. But then I arrived there and it like so wasn't. Like it was the opposite of that. I feel like you walk into space and you know that some people are there to perform the rave, other people are there to do the rave.
I feel like there's a higher sense of safety, like personal safety. And with techno, it was the first time that I was like, oh, I can just like stand here in a corner, do my 3 moves, and like completely zone out, and it doesn't really matter who else is there. I'm playing less of this like social game of impressing, and it's like I appreciated for the first time the sort of like dancing for yourself and not only as a social act and experience. And something I love of Berlin is these like mini living rooms that there is spread out. Like I've been to Renate or like some others. It's like you're not only there for the sort of like dance floor experience, but you're there to sort of like hang out with your friends. And so there's these little couch areas where you can sit, take a rest, smoke a cigarette, talk to your friends, talk to strangers.
How much security there was a surprise. We had to like go through the line. They would like dump out everything in our bags, make sure like we're not carrying anything that would be harmful. That actually made me feel so safe. Nothing felt formal, and like my past experiences, it felt very formal, which I didn't enjoy.
How kind everyone was.
The first thing I noticed going in was really the sheer diversity of the people in there. Diversity in terms of age, in terms of like gender orientation, just every single person. Like I wanted to know what their story was, that kind of energy in each person, and it felt like we were all on the same ground, which we literally were. Like we were dancing on the same ground. There were people in there that were like probably in their 40s, 50s and enjoying this culture, and back home that would not be a thing, and in any other club situation I've been in. And it felt like I could just like approach someone who's like in their 40s or 50s and like vibe with them, like dance with them. And also being in techno and seeing older people like enjoying themselves in that way helped me step back and think about the idea of what age should even entail. I think the conclusion I have so far is that like there's no expectation. You really make what you make of age. Like no matter how old you are, like you're allowed to and you should be doing like whatever you want to do with life. It just felt like we kind of leveled out. Like there wasn't so much of like, because you're this old you should act this way, you're this young you should act this way. Like it didn't feel there was that attachment of any expectation. That felt very liberating.
I think the fast pace makes me feel like I can dance in whichever way I like.
It just felt like the music was moving me.
I'm just following something that feels very intuitive.
An electric blue. That's how dancing felt like.
I don't really care about what I look like. I feel like I care more about the way that my body moves to the music and how I choose to float with the music. I feel so in my own body and like I don't need to be anywhere else. Like I can just, most of the time I just close my eyes and I'm just vibing on my own.
Being in a flow state of when you're like, you're there dancing and you know that for the next 4 hours, there's nothing else you have to do. Like, there's the DJ, there's your friends, maybe there's other people, and you're there dancing, that's all. Like, there's no task to be done, there's no solutions to be like found, there's no like big things you have to study or prepare for. You're literally just there to move and to dance, and that's a very like liberating feeling, and it sort of like releases some of the pressure we constantly feel in our daily life. And I also see it as a way to like take care of yourself.
It was like a whole new way of performing it. Like you were actually performing it, you know? It wasn't a performance, you were actually embodied in the way that you were dancing, like with your entire body and soul. Like it was just such an intense experience.
Just being there, like it sounds cliche, be in the moment, etc. But I think that's why people love dancing, because you're feeling and you're not thinking about the thing you're experiencing.
It just feels like I can disconnect from everything else and just go into my limbs. And I'm my hand. Like I am my hand moving through the space, or I am my foot.
Dancing is a good bonding language.
I think it's like a way of expressing yourself without needing to talk. I think I can look at other people and look at the way that they dance and just feel so much awe. And like it kind of doesn't matter who you are. Like, yeah, I'm probably just seeing that person from behind or from the side, and I'm just seeing their arms move, and I'm like, wow, I want to get to know you, you know? I think it's just body talk. Like I think it's just another way of communicating. I think I really do enjoy going to raves with people I know, because it's like seeing a whole new side of them. Like I feel like I have a lot of friends who, when they dance, I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that was inside of you. Like I didn't know that was part of you too. Sometimes I'm dancing and it feels like I'm dancing with the other people around me. But most of the time I think I sort of just enter my own headspace. And that's what I really like about going to raves, is that it sort of feels like a very solitary yet communal experience. Like you're dancing on your own, but you're also surrounded by so many other people who are also having a good time on their own. I know that raving in a group of people who I know have the same like emotional and social background as me makes me feel so much safer. Sometimes you look at some other people who are dancing and you can just tell that they're so engulfed in the music and like in the space that they're in and in the crowd, and it just looks and feels so different. And when you're in spaces with a lot of people who are feeling that way, who are just there for the music, like for the feeling of being there with other people, also just there to like experience that like transcendental moment of being together. Like you can tell that it's just it feels different.
Even though we're not so much like making eye contact with each other, like all the people in the room, just everyone doing their own thing still feels like there's some sort of connection among people.
Small moments of like connections with strangers in terms of dancing, like I don't know, maybe you're standing next to this person for a while in front of the DJ, and then you sort of like acknowledge each other's presence, and then without having to like make any big gesture, saying anything, you have a sort of like, hey, I see you, I feel you, we're sharing this like cool beat together, and I feel connected to you, even though I like don't know who you are, don't know where you're going, where you come from, it doesn't matter, and I'm fine with like not having the need of then like talking to you, being friends, saying, oh, how cool that was. It's just a like very subtle language sharing.
The connection I felt with the people in the room was like very energetic, in the sense that there was music and movement, and how the music connected with our movements, and like everyone was doing their own thing. It wasn't like we were dancing the same way or moving at the same time, but like that beat that kept us going, it almost brings like your heartbeat out of you. So it felt like we were all there for our like heartbeats to like align, like there was a connection, like not just with eye contact or being like close proximity with someone else, but like our existence felt like it was all like being synced in some way, like carried by the beat.
It really improved the sort of like attention and care I have for my body. Dancing helped a lot. If I'm feeling down and anxious and my body gets like stuck, I put on a song because I feel that I'm not like feeling well, and I just like unleash it and like jump or dance or whatever, and that's a like happy tool set that I have now for sort of like taking care of myself.
And the music was moving so fast that I felt it was never going to stop. Like I felt weightless, that the music was holding me and carrying me throughout time and throughout the space that I was in. That healed something in me that I don't know what. Something shifted within me and the atoms rearranged themselves, if I may. I feel a lot more trusting of myself, like even my movements or decisions. Like it starts with how my body moves, and that like rolls into other like elements. Just experiencing how the music can hold me and move me shifted like that dynamic I have with myself. Yeah.
Can I talk about drugs? Okay. In many ways, I can't separate going to raves from like doing drugs. It allows me to experience myself in a whole new way, but also other people. Like I definitely think that part of what allows me to feel that communion with other people is like being on drugs that brings out that side of me.
So to be brutally honest, a lot of my love for music was unleashed by drugs. Like the first time I did MDMA, I felt the music in a way that I'd never done before. I'm sure other people have said this.
But at the same time, having done those drugs once also allows me to recreate that feeling over and over again.
Drugs open a world and a way of perceiving music that then is your world, and drugs are not the only way to access that.
It just shuts off a lot of other things, and it brings out things that I usually shut off. It prevents me from overthinking the way I move, the way I look and like feel in the space, and it just allows me to like do whatever it feels like I want to do in that moment and feel whatever it feels like I want to feel in that moment.
With techno, it doesn't feel so much like an escape, but more of a retreat. Like it feels like going to techno would open up even more like space within me to connect with myself, and that feels like unblocking something that's like unblocking the rationality that like sits very much in my head, in my own mind, of I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that, like instead of really tuning in with myself.
The years after, like since I've tried Molly or whatever for the first time, I noticed how like now, even if I'm sober, even if I'm not in a club, whatever, I'm able to sort of like tap into that part of my senses and my perception, even without the medium of drugs. And in a way, I'm still able to access a lot of those similar emotions and experiences because maybe I felt them in the past, and I kind of like have learned how to channel them a bit. And again, what I was saying before about this like search for intensity, it is addictive, and drugs do give you these very strong experiences, and it's sometimes hard to separate between like, okay, what of this cool experience was because I was doing drugs, and what of this was everything else. By being exposed to a techno scene changed my perception of drugs, and have learned to sort of appreciate that there's ways that I consider healthy and safe. And yes, the line is sometimes blurry, but yeah, it's a balance.
I think often some spaces have felt very unavailable. If you fit within the category that they're looking for, like it's your space, but at the same time knowing how insanely easy it is to buy your way into fitting into that category, it makes me feel really jaded. It makes me feel like distant from a lot of raving communities, because I'm like, I can't afford to be that kind of raver. Like, I'm still trying to find those spaces that allow for me to just show up as I am, just sort of without having to put any extra layers on.
Yeah, because in a way that's also the original intent of for you to show up as you are.
Yeah.
Coming alongside.
Yeah.
Which is quite sad.
I wonder if the rave is being lost, because I think the more it has become commercialized, the more anyone goes there. And sometimes I don't see a difference between the crowds in like a traditional nightclub to someone at a rave, and that just makes me feel unsafe, because I don't want to be surrounded by like white cis men who are like in on me while I'm dancing. And of course they can be, I mean, like, it's not as if a rave space necessarily excludes them either in like the what we think of when we want to think of a rave, but I don't know, like I think it has just become so commercialized that it's also losing some of the people who would maybe have gone there earlier. As with everything in the world, like when spaces start to feel exclusive, people find ways to work around it. I wonder if like raves that are exclusively for like marginalized people, like sort of putting up direct boundaries against allowing people who like traditionally the rave space was not meant for, and who don't need a rave or feel safe going to any kind of rave and can go to their own raves and have spaces for people who don't feel equally safe. And I could see sort of the rave space adopting a lot of the same measures that exist in like other event spaces, like catering it to the ones that need a different rave. Forgetting the name of that specific club in Berlin, but they would have like K-pop techno nights. Of course, it wouldn't attract everyone. So it's like allowing techno to not just be like this A4 template. The second you start getting more experimental, you can play with what techno is, and that will automatically divide up the group of ravers. I have so many images of my head right now of walking into raves and just like, it just feels like the same as the outside that I stepped out from. Like the outside and the rave space are the same. I want to escape the outside. Like when I enter a rave, I don't want to think about what's going on outside. I want to have my own little world in the rave. And if the exact same people and structures and conversations and emotions that exist in that real outside world exist in the rave, I don't want to go there. I can imagine that it's for people who like to experiment with music, people who need to find spaces to exist that are outside of like institutions and clubs. Like the reason why they're underground is because one, like their music was not accepted, and two, the people who are running it and the people who attend it were not accepted. And I mean, now it's just the opposite of that. Like it's just become so, yeah, legible. And like there's no issue with holding a rave anymore. Maybe that's the issue. Like maybe we should make raves illegal again.